Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next session of Sahaja Online. So today is part two of the series that we are calling Achieving Breakthroughs in Our Meditation. Last week we had our first session. So today we are going to continue on with the second session. So the first thing I'm going to do is to recap last week's session. So we went over some of the foundational aspects of what is needed if we want to really make a big change in the way we are experiencing the benefits of meditation. So that really is the focus. We know that most or all of us are doing our meditations. We know that it has benefits. But how do we take it to the next level, right? How can we get that deeper experience, and how can we begin to experience some of the spiritual aspects as well that are typical as we get into the practice in the medium to longer term. So this series is about sharing those aspects, those methods, those ways by which we can try to achieve this breakthrough. And so last week when we started, the first point I had mentioned was about commitment and the fact that we really need to set aside time, but not just time, but also make sure that meditation is at the center of our lifestyle and it takes the highest priority. So in order for this whole exercise to be successful, that's the first thing that we have to commit to. And after that, we went over some of the aspects during the meditation itself. The fact of how long should we meditate, and the best answer of course is as long as it takes for the kundalini energy to cleanse us out and to establish us in the state of meditation. And then we spoke about and also did the meditation in terms of the intensity and the focus, avoiding the thoughts and so on. I did mention about collective meditation as well. And we did discuss the elements and the use of the elements, the simplest of them being the earth element, which is basically sitting on the ground and doing the meditation. And then use of the foot soaking technique to use the water element for cleansing the lower chakras. Then we also said that the attention is extremely important. So our whole lifestyle needs to be simplified. And if we are into too many things in this fast-paced world, then we have to try and simplify our life so that we can focus more on this meditation. And finally, we looked at using this particular technique or this opportunity to see if we can get over something that we feel we have been struggling with for a while. And it can be related to our behaviors, it can be related to a habit, whatever that is, to see if meditation can help us, get rid of that. So with that, let's move to the second week focus. Here are the things that I want to share today. I want to go a little bit more into detail as to why and how these methods are useful. So the first thing I want to say is early morning meditation. Though I have said 5 a.m., that's approximate. Actually, it is meditation at dawn, just at the time of sunrise. That is literally the technique, which means that when the birds are chirping and when we are just rising and maybe daylight is breaking, right? That is the time that we want to try and do meditation, preferably daily if we can. And there are huge advantages to that. The most important reason being that that is from many centuries, you could say since time, inception of time, human beings have known that during that period, early morning period, the divine energy is at its peak intensity. And so if we wake up, it almost feels like we are synchronizing ourselves with nature. And if you notice, the birds begin chirping at that time, so they also wake up. So you're in complete harmony with nature. And then when we raise our energy and sit in meditation, we absorb the maximum amount of energy, and that has beautiful effects throughout the day. It gives us a lot of, I would say, energy, it gives us a lot of peace, it gives us a lot of direction during the day. So that is something that we can consider during this whole approach or exercise where we are trying to make a breakthrough, right? And I would say the 5 a.m. meditation somewhere between 4:30 to 5:30 roughly is the time. Or you can also go by daybreak if you want. That's extremely powerful. You will notice a difference if you do it for a week at a stretch, and then one day you do it much later. You will notice a perceptible difference in everything in your day. It will not seem as smooth. You may not feel as recharged, as fresh, and you'll find that your decision making is not all that good. Sense of intuition is not that great, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the differences that you can see. Now, we did speak about elements in the last session, but I want to go into a little bit more of detail on this point about using the earth element, which is basically doing more of meditation, sitting on the ground outside, and trying to focus on clearing ourselves. So, this is important because, once again, the element of nature, earth, the earth element is also related to our the first chakra, which is an extremely important chakra. It gives us the platform for our spiritual well-being, and that is also made of earth and the earth element. And so, cleansing of the Moladhara chakra, as it is called, the first chakra, along with all of the other negativities, trying to pass them onto the ground, is a cleansing technique that is extremely powerful. So the other thing that we could do is we can combine some of these aspects, especially in summer. If it's not too cold outside, we could wake up during at daybreak, 5:30 a.m., get outside, and try to sit on the ground and do our meditation. That's another option. So we could combine some of these techniques and not necessarily do them individually. But this is another powerful technique. And so what are the benefits? Why is this being suggested as part of this series? My own personal experience is that if I do this continuously for about a month or even 3 months, then I find myself clearing out. I find the quality of my meditation so much better. Vibrational experience. We spoke about vibratory awareness and the experience of vibrations whole lot better when we are using the earth element and continuously doing it. It is a great way to clear ourselves out of the problems in our lives as well. So if you are facing a problem of any kind in your life, whether it's relating to your family, relating to your job, relating to your health, relating to finances, you can actually put your attention on the problem. Ask Mother Earth to absorb all the negativity and all the obstacles that are there that are causing that problem. And if we do it continuously over a period of time, maybe a month or so, there can be actually dramatic results and an improvement as far as those problems are concerned. So it's also for us to help solve problems, and it's extremely powerful to do that. So that's the second thing I would do in terms of focusing on the earth element and using that as a method. Uh, Now, as we get into week two, we have to know by now, or we should at least have sensed that the Agya Chakra is one of the, I would say, most common issues or problems or problematic chakras for all human beings in today's civilization, with no exception at all. And the Agya Chakra is responsible for the two components of ego, which is the sense of identity that we have, and it gives us a strong identity of different kinds. The fact that we are a certain person with a certain ID, living in this world, a certain status, position, or status in society, or a particular role. All of those are associations and identifications, and those all cloud our, you could say, existence. They cloud our minds. They tend to get in the way of being completely spiritual, which is realizing ourselves as the true spirit. That is, in fact, the only identity that we have, that we are the spirit. So, in a way, the ego is really a myth. It gives us all these ideas, and once those ideas take, root in our head and within us, we develop all these strong identifications. Then our lives become more complicated, and that's when problems happen. And so the ability to find solutions inside ourselves to all the problems becomes lesser and lesser if we have a stronger ego. And then we begin to commit mistakes just out of our ego. We are uncompromising, we are inflexible, and so on and so forth. So really, bulk of the problems actually that we are facing, and in fact, bulk of the issues relating to not being able to break through are actually related to the Agya Chakra. So that's an area of deeper focus. So we have to make concerted efforts to work on the Agya Chakra, to realize and recognize that it is a problem within us. So what are some of the methods that we can do? Yes, we can use affirmations. We can remind ourselves that, I am the spirit, and we could say, work on our Agya Chakra, hands on our hands across our forehead and bending down. We can try to bring in humility within ourselves, but not in an artificial way, but sort of reinforcing with affirmations that the only truth is that we are the spirit, and whatever achievements we have in our life are not really our doing. So we don't need to feel as though we are achieving a lot of things and we are great and we are this and we are that. So working on the Agya means actually moving in the other direction, which is getting rid of all the associations and identities and accomplishments and achievements, and just surrendering all of that and becoming free and just realizing and being with our spirit, right? Also, the earth element will help. And as we are sitting on the ground and doing our meditation for a while, we can also open our eyes, look at the sky, expansive sky. That helps in clearing the Agya Chakra as well. And then, of course, in advanced stages, we have the mantras for the Agya Chakra as well. So there are multiple things that we can do, but we have to also understand that if we are at that stage, which most of us are, where we are having problems with the Agya Chakra, then a technique oriented approach is limited, right? We cannot do a whole lot of clearing and just go back to our lives and, with the same attitude and the same, you could say, mental disposition, right? You cannot go and lead the same life and then say, oh, I'm working on my Agya. So the thing is, as we grow subtler, the problems are also growing subtler, right? So when we get to the point of the Agya, the problems that we have are extremely deep rooted and subtle, so subtle that we cannot even realize that we have a problem with our Agya Chakra. So the subtlest of problems reside in the Agya Chakra. Beyond the Agya Chakra, it's just the Sahasrara, which is just the gateway for us to connect to the all-pervading power. So in a way, you could say that the Agya is the pinnacle or the peak of the problems all human beings face, right? And it is unique to human beings, of course, right? So this is the sort of the peak of that mountain of problems that we have. You could view it in that way. And so focusing on the Agya Chakra, what I meant to say was, techniques will only go up to a certain point, right? Doing it mechanically, trying to clear the Agya Chakra and trying to mechanically say, oh, I forgive everyone, including myself and all that. That's all essential. We need to remind ourselves. But beyond a point, we have to use subtler methods, which is we have to develop the awareness and say, am I really working, doing this because of my ego? Where do I stand with respect to my life? Do I have a strong identity? And do I lead a life on the basis of that identity? So, for example, a simple example is, okay, I'm such and such person, and I have accomplished so much. Therefore, I deserve this in my life, right? And we go ahead and buy and pamper ourselves with that. That is a classic case of pampering the ego on the basis of an identity that is a worldly identity, and that's all a myth, right? This is how the Agya works. So the Agya will tell us that, hey, you've achieved so much, you are this or you are that, and you are great in some way, therefore you deserve this, and therefore it pushes you to buy certain things or acquire certain things for ourselves, right? That's a classical scenario of the problem with the Agya. Now, that is not to say that every such thing is a bad thing. We have to lead our normal lives. We require certain things. It is all about balance, right? The question is, I might have something that's extremely convenient. I might have, say, an expensive chair to sit on, right? Or I might have some house. The question is, how much are we attached to it, and can we actually give it up? That is the sign of a balanced agya versus something that's, you know, you could say holding us back, right? So the subtler aspect over here is not to go to the other direction and say, hey, in order to work on my agya, I'm going to give up everything and I'm going to become a minimalist and whatever, right? That's not the answer. The answer is, in a subtle way, to detach from whatever comforts that we might have. Yes, you can enjoy those comforts, but if it comes to a point where we can't have those, it doesn't matter, right? We are still able to get by. So that whole sense of detachment from that is the key to having a balanced agya. So there are these subtler aspects that we need to examine in our lives, and that has a more powerful effect. The other example could be even in as simple as in our conversations and in our interactions, right? Are we unknowingly imposing our ego onto others, right? The most common of them could be that we tell people and we say almost implicitly without stating so, we make them feel that, hey, I am the expert, you better listen to me. It's a very common thing that we might do. And each one of us at some point in time has acquired some expertise. It's hard for any human being to sort of feel that, oh, I'm not an expert at anything, right? That's an extremely tough situation, difficult characteristic to have. So maybe at some point in time or other, we step in and we step in when we have a conversation with somebody else or an interaction, and we say, look, we don't say it in as many words, but we try to impose our ego and we try to have our way because we feel we have the right to do so, and we have earned that right because we have developed that expertise, or we are better than somebody else, right? That might actually be the truth in some way. We might actually be a whole lot better in a particular thing. But the point is, are we using our ego to impose that on the other person? And is that hurting that other person? That's another classical, a common example of how the ego is being exerted. So when we really examine our life, a lot of these problems of the ego, right, are very subtle. They're always there around us in our lifestyles, in our behavior, in the way we lead our lives, in the way we think, and so on and so forth. So all of those aspects, the awareness of that and trying to work on those gradually is all part of the exercise of clearing the agya. So we have to use spiritual techniques, we have to use the mantras, we have to work on our Agya Chakra, we have to use the earth element, whatever, right? Air element, and so on and so forth. But it will not go far unless we are using these subtler methods to moderate our behaviors within us. That is really the focus on the Agya Chakra. Now, the ego is mentioned here. I should also note about super ego, which probably is not as common as a problem or as severe, which is being inflexible, having the conditionings, having an attitude of this is the only way to do things, right? Or this is my way of doing things is the right way. There can be no other way of doing it, right? That's a classical example. Or it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be so strong where, it stands out as inflexibility. It can be a conditioning about anything without realizing. For example, we might, if the basis on the basis of our own upbringing in certain cultures, we might feel that this is the way to do it, or this is the only way to do it, and or things like this is absolutely essential, I cannot do without it, right? All of those are conditionings within us. Now, have we really tried and tested? Have we checked to see that we really need that and we cannot do without it? Maybe we might be surprised at the result, right? So even this, totally harmless, it does not affect anybody else, but it is still a conditioning within us. And that creates some sort of a binding. It creates an obstacle for us to rise, and it creates a problem with the Agya Chakra. So a zero superego and a zero ego is not possible, but we can try to minimize that. And from a actual spiritual standpoint, the ego and the superego in the Agya Chakra are present over here, and they are like balloons, right? The bigger the ego and the superego, the more they expand. The more they make it difficult for the Kundalini to rise through the Agya Chakra into the Sahasrara. Now, as we work through subtler aspects and through techniques, we try to deflate those, the ego and the superego, and then we allow more of the Kundalini to pass. And that is also commonly in the Sahaj world known as rising above the Agya into the Sahasrara. What that means is our attention has that heightened awareness where we are able to transcend the effects and limitations of the Agya Chakra and our attention rises to the higher truth, right? That is the true result that we want to work on. It is not going to happen overnight, and it is not, there is no perfect person, including myself, right? We all have different kinds of problems. But the way forward in trying to make a breakthrough is identifying the results and impacts of our own ego and superego, being aware of it and trying to work on that, right? So that's the most important part. And trust me, if we work on this Agya Chakra, this can solve a whole lot of our problems, right? We might be surprised at which and at the rate at which our problems begin to go away. And even as far as meditation is concerned, we begin to feel lighter. Our attention becomes clearer once we let go, and all of those complications inside the head, begin to go away. So that's the third important focus area that we have to work on, and it's a deeper and tougher thing. And obviously, week one was some of the important things, but week two aspects are more difficult, and it had to be that way if we have to progressively, work harder and harder on achieving a breakthrough. We have to do some of those more difficult things. Waking up at 5 a.m., for example, might be an impossible thing for somebody to do. We have to fight the odds, right? We have to see if we are able to do that. And continuously sitting on the ground each day doing outdoor meditation may simply be impossible, but we have to fight. We have to do that, working on the Agya and so on and so forth. The next one, fortunately, is easier, and we have to fall into that. For this, we already had collective meetings as one of the items in the week one. And week one, I would say the suggestion was, let's at least do it once a week. In week two, if you want deeper results, deeper experience and better results, the recommendation is increase the number of collective meetings, right? The more you attend, the more you are with collectivity, the easier it gets for us to make a breakthrough. So that's the recommendation. And foot soaking was again recommended as one of the powerful techniques. I would say that when you're getting to a point where you are doing your foot soak without, almost it's like brushing your teeth, right? You don't fail to do your foot soak, not mechanically, not as a ritual, but as a true benefit for you. You're consistently doing it, and you're seeing the benefits, and that is a sign that you are closer to achieving a breakthrough, and you're beginning to reach those deeper levels in your meditation. So that is the summary of, I would say, additional focus getting into week two. I hope as far as week one, you were able to try out at least a few of them, and you had some results. If not, there's always time to start. You can always combine some of these. There is no need to rush into it. These are all suggestions. Each one of them is powerful, tested by the anecdotal experiences, the real experiences of practitioners over many decades, right? So all of these definitely work. There is no question. The question is, can we get to that level where we are able to perceive the extra benefit and the deeper benefit? That is the only question. It is never a question of do any of these work. I can say for sure, most or all of these I have experienced at one time or the other, and it has been absolutely amazing. But the problem that I also have, or anybody has, is can I become consistent, right? Can I get consistent and doing most of these and having these in my routine, right? Obviously, doing all of them is probably not going to be possible. But can I at least have most of them in my daily routine? That's one. Or can I have phases in my life when I have some free time, when things are not so busy, for 2 weeks at a stretch or 3 weeks at a stretch, where I do all of them without fail? Those are techniques that are possible, right? So it's not like 365 days a year, every single one of these we have to keep on doing and then you'll see the breakthrough. We can always make a note and say that, look, now is some free time, maybe not so much work, and maybe I have some free time, maybe I'm on vacation. It's almost like taking a vacation. But think about it. If you take a vacation and spend 2 weeks on this, though it is almost impossible that anybody would feel so. Our natural definition of vacation is, yeah, I have to go and enjoy somewhere. I have to give some sort of stimulation to my senses, right? I have to get some thrill, or I have to go and see something, or I have to do something outward. It's all outward for us, taking a break. But what if we took an inward break and we said, I'm going to go on an inward vacation inside myself for 2 weeks? And if we do all of these, that's exactly why I'm sharing these, so that if you try it and say, look, I'm taking a break, my life is kind of messed up. right? Let me go and try and take 2 weeks or a month or whatever, or even 3 months, and just focus on this. Be at a place where there's a lot of collectivity. Do each one of these, and let's see what the experience is. 100% of the time, people who have done that have come back and said, "Oh, it just took me to a new level. My life changed." I can tell you, I can guarantee that 100%. If you do this, give the time and attention, take that break and do it. So that's another way to do it. If we cannot allot a lot of our time and in our lives to do all of this, take those phases. Even just 1 week is enough, right? Try this and take that vacation, and it's like taking a vacation for your attention, right? We take a vacation from physically being at work or in the place that we usually are, but how about spiritually being at a different level? That kind of a vacation, I think, is the most powerful one that we should at least be able to dream, desire, and imagine, right? And eventually it will happen, and that's the other way to make it happen. The common guideline and suggestion is, if we desire, it will happen. If we desire for our spiritual betterment and improvement, it will happen. In fact, there are stories of how people had no money at all, right? And they desired that they wanted to go to some place where there was a large Sahaj gathering and so on, right? They had no idea how the money would come, but their desire was so strong, somehow something worked out. And then they were able to attend that seminar, which had like 4,000 people or something. So it is all in the desire. The same thing goes with the time too. If you feel that you're busy, your schedule does not allow, try this, right? Create a strong desire. Don't think about how it is impossible. I don't think about even whether it's going to be possible. Just desire. At some point, you will find the time. Time will come your way. Right? It's magical the way it happens. But that is really the truth. So that's essentially the part of week 2. And like the prior week, we will now get into the meditation. I would say there is no specific technique as such. Maybe we could do a little bit of work on the Agya, but that's already been covered in many of our other sessions on the Agya Chakra, on cleansing techniques and so on. This session is not meant to teach you a specific technique, but only to increase your awareness to a set of powerful techniques and how to combine them and how to apply them together, so that you can achieve a breakthrough. All right. So with that said, let's get into the meditation. So let's all first close our eyes for a few moments, prepare ourselves for meditation. So let's try and work on our Agya in today's meditation. So the first thing we need to do is prepare ourselves and have that disposition or that attitude, we could say, though those two terms are not really representative, because they are more cognitive in nature, but still, the preparation for getting into meditation and working on the Agya is to feel humble and feel that humility within us, to exercise that humility. So, what we need to do is feel and tell ourselves that we are virtually nobody in this universe. We are insignificant, or I am insignificant. My existence in this world, as in the physical sense, does not really matter. None of my achievements are my own. They are all enabled by the divine. I bear no credit for anything that I have done, and none of my outward worldly identities are real. The only truth is that I am the spirit, and the only thing that matters is my spiritual improvement. So, those are some of the messages we need to reinforce in silence. So, let's do that for a short while. Now, as we humble down, let's slowly raise our Kundalini energy and prepare ourselves for meditation. Now, let's take our right hand, place it across our forehead so that the forehead and the head is sort of resting in our hands, in our right hand. Now we can say a few affirmations and really mean those affirmations from our heart. The first one being, I forgive everyone, including myself. And let's make a genuine attempt to just get past everything that's holding us back in our lives. Next, let's try and detach from some of those things where we have excessive involvement in our lives. Try to detach. Try to tell ourselves that those things don't matter. Now let's bring our right hand back on our laps and let's express a pure desire to our own Kundalini energy to help us rise beyond the Agya and have our attention on the Sahasrara and gradually raise our attention to the Sahasrara chakra. Let's continue to remain in that state of meditation for a while, trying to also focus on our attention, keeping it alert, watching for thoughts. If they do come, just let them pass by, forgive, and just get back to having the attention on the Sahasrara. Now we can slowly open our eyes and continue with that humility even after we complete our meditation to thank the divine, thank this great energy within us for having given us our spiritual awakening, and then slowly raise our Kundalini energy to conclude the meditation. All right, with that, we come to the end of today's session, and I'll see you again next week. I'm hoping you have an opportunity to try some of these and persistently try it multiple times to see the effect and the benefit. And with that, we'll meet again next week. Thank you for your time.